Hey everybody, this is your captain speaking, and if you're new to my channel, I like to talk about the joys of astrology. That's right, I like to talk about how if you practice astrology well, it leads to joy. That's been my experience, and today I want to talk about tonight's total lunar eclipse. They're calling it a super flower total lunar eclipse. It's a supermoon. That means the moon is at the closest to the Earth that it can be. And when it's that close, it seems bigger, it seems brighter. And so it's going to be an awesome full moon. And then it's going to be an awesome total lunar eclipse for those of you who are able to see it. It will be a total lunar eclipse also for those of you who are not able to see it. And by that I mean when it's total, it'll be daytime in those places, whereas it'll be nighttime in the places where you can see it. And I know I'm going to be able to see it here in San Francisco, and I'm super psyched. The weather looks great. And everybody on the west coast of the United States can check this out, including Alaska and Hawaii, as well as East Asia, and I think it's all of Australia. I can't be sure. You're going to have to look it up yourselves. But I'm going to talk about what's happening here from the perspective of San Francisco in terms of the times to be looking for things. And so, yes, I want to just share a little bit about my experience so far with this eclipse and encourage you on some ways to relate to the eclipse and maybe pray to the eclipse and perhaps explore yourselves during the eclipse. And so, what do I have to say about eclipses generally? Whether it's a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, I think these are profound moments for human reflection and meditation. Sometimes I like to think about the proto-humans way back before modernity and how they must have related to eclipses. It must have been mind-blowing for those early humans to look up at the sky, and after observing the moon for months and months and years, all of a sudden they're looking up and the moon just starts to turn red. It starts to get darker, and it's like, I have to think they would be like, WTF? What the hell is going on here? And then an engagement with it, a turning inward perhaps, and a reflection on what is the meaning of this celestial event. And I would encourage all of you to begin there, to disregard any of what the astrological tradition says about it, disregard what astronomy says about it, and engage with it yourselves and just find your own meaning with it. I may suggest some things, but ultimately it's about you connecting deeply with it in your own way. And I think eclipses are powerful moments, powerful days and weeks. Certainly the month around an eclipse has a certain power and numinosity to it. And so I guess I have a question for those of you who are checking this out. And as I'm recording it, it's 2 p.m. on Tuesday, May 25th. Had to double check that. And the eclipse is going to be exact about how many hours? 14 hours from now? Is that right? It's pretty exact at 4 a.m., really 4:18 a.m. Pacific time. So just so you know, you convert that to your own time and you got to see, is it going to be dark enough to observe this amazing event? So I guess I have a question for those of you who are checking this video out. What has the last week or two been like since the new moon? Especially the last week as we're leading into this very powerful moment of the eclipse. I know for me, it's really been a deep time. I feel like it's been a kind of cleansing period. I feel like some major timelines are kind of closing or climaxing. The full moon is often a kind of climax of energies that kind of started back at the new moon where seeds get planted. This is more of a kind of flowering phase, and I think it's interesting that this is a super flower moon. The flower moon, the flower full moon happens in springtime when the flowers are blooming. And so, yeah, I think it's a good time to think about how are you flowering? How is your life flowering? How is your karma flowering into really powerful new formations? I feel like that's been happening for me. I feel like there's some really deep, vulnerable things happening in my life that in some ways are really positive, in other ways kind of challenging, but I feel like there's some really deep transformation happening in my life and a sense of, yeah, kind of culmination of a clearing and cleansing process. And I've definitely been feeling it in the last week. And I assume it's a part of a larger process that will unfold over the next couple weeks until the next new moon. It's bigger than that because lunar eclipses are really, well, they're relatively rare. They can happen a couple times a year. Often there'll be one total lunar eclipse and then one that's more of a partial lunar eclipse. But in terms of being able to observe it and see a total lunar eclipse from beginning to end, that's more rare. When I think in my own life, I don't know, I know I've observed pretty deeply 4 or 5 lunar eclipses. That's kind of not that many for somebody that's been really watching the sky for 30 years. But those times where I really did deeply engage with a lunar eclipse were very special, and especially this last one that I was able to see here in San Francisco, which I believe was 3 years ago. And I would have to think that lunar eclipses are kind of connected to other lunar eclipses, especially the ones you've observed. And I can feel a kind of a pretty deep connection to the one I saw 3 years ago and what's been happening in my life currently. But yes, they're rare events. And so I think when you engage them, you want to understand that you're working with rare and powerful energies that have a kind of potential to powerfully transform your life or powerfully take you with strong energies to important new timelines. I guess I would say it like that. And so I think it's an important time to imagine, how is my life going through powerful transformations right now? The moon is often associated with the deep mysteries of the night. The moon is the ruler of the night, and the full moon illuminates the night. It brings full consciousness to the nighttime parts of the psyche, and that's the more hidden parts of the psyche, the more vulnerable parts of the psyche. And I think the moon also is associated with home and family and your most personal, vulnerable relationships. And so you might look to see if there's anything deep happening in those areas. Maybe think about what's going on with my home, what's going on with my homeland. Is there anything deep and important going on? And I think you may know that full moons are associated with kind of high energy, kind of peak energy for the month, but a lunar eclipse is unique. It's a different kind of full moon. It combines the high energy, but also a darker, deeper quality that's profound and mysterious. And so a lunar eclipse is an initiation into the deepest mysteries of the psyche. And so I think, over this next 24 hours, and I strongly encourage you, if at all possible, if the weather allows, to try to get out and observe this amazing event. Now, here on the west coast of California, the west coast of the United States, the time of the eclipse, so this is just the outline for basically the Pacific time here in the United States. And, it starts around 1:47 a.m. The Earth's penumbra starts to touch the moon's face. So you're not going to see a whole lot at 1:47 a.m. But by 2:44, the partial eclipse begins. Partial moon eclipse starts. Moon is getting red. So do you want to get up at the very beginning? I'm assuming you're not. Well, some of you might be real night owls and you may not have gone to bed yet. You may just decide to stay up and not go to sleep. That would be an interesting way to honor the eclipse. I personally don't want to do that. I want to get some sleep. So I'm going to try to get to bed early so I can wake up real early. And I think for me, what am I thinking? What's my intention? The total eclipse begins at 4:11 a.m. So I absolutely want to be out for that. And I want to be out observing it, I think 45 minutes before then. So that means for me, I want to be in the spot where I'm going to observe this eclipse starting around 3:30 a.m. That's kind of the witching hour, which is a good time to get out there and do magic ritual. And that's absolutely what I want to encourage you to do during this eclipse, whether it's before you go to bed or when you wake up. And some of you aren't going to be in an area where you can observe it, but you can do a ritual at the exact time when the lunar eclipse is exact. And you may not be able to see it, but you can feel into it. And you can recognize in that moment that the Earth is exactly between the moon on one side and the sun on the other. So we're talking about a perfect alignment between the sun, Earth, and the moon. That doesn't happen every full moon because the moon is at a 5-degree angle off the ecliptic, and it's only twice a year where it gets right on the ecliptic. So anyway, even if you can't see it, you can tune into it and you can feel this moment of total alignment between the sun, the earth, and the moon. And you can feel yourself like right held between them, feeling the earth held between them. And what's happening is the shadow of the earth is going across the full moon. As the full moon passes in front of the earth, it's entering into its shadow. And that event takes about 4 hours altogether, but the period when it's maximum or total is only, what does it say here? 15 minutes? Is that right? Wow. Yeah, we're talking about 14 minutes of totality. That's a good long time compared to a solar eclipse, which can be just like, what is it? A minute? Is it a minute? No, it can be 3 or 4 minutes, I think. Maybe up to 6 minutes. But this is 14 minutes of totality. And during those 14 minutes, I think if you can kind of go within, go into a meditative state of consciousness, and kind of feel yourself as the earth, held by both the sun and the moon, and where there's a sense of going into the darkness of your own psyche, where the deep mysteries lie, and where the deepest messages come from. And so you're tuning into your own depths, the hidden depths and the hidden mysteries, and praying for guidance, praying for messages, and feeling for them. The moon is about feeling. It's about the body. It's feeling into the body. It may not be words. So the messages may not come so much in words, but more in a kind of deep felt sense within your body, within your animal body. And so I guess I would recommend, as you're observing the eclipse, and lunar eclipses tend to go a kind of reddish, brownish color, and it's really deep and mysterious, you know? And so as you're kind of observing that red light and feeling it kind of come towards you, it's like just be in that receptive mode and feel into what's coming to you. Feel into it. And I am going to be out there, what did I say? I'm going to go out around 3:30. That's my goal. That means I probably have to get up at 3:15, 3:10. Oh my goodness. I'm going to get up, I'm going to make my tea. I've already started packing my bag. I've got my binoculars. I'm going to bring a tripod because I'm going to try to take some photos. And I'm probably going to bring some ritual objects and a few stones. It's great to bathe special crystals in moonlight, and lunar eclipse light is, of course, extra magic. And there's a few stones that are recommended, especially selenite. Do I have some selenite here? Selenite is great in terms of a white stone for the lunar light. I don't know if I'll bring this huge piece. I got some smaller ones. I may sit this out on. So I probably won't bring this out with me to the spot I'm going, which is outside of my home. I'll observe some of it from my home because I can, but I want to get to a better spot. I'm not going to lug big stones like this, but I'll probably put this out on my patio so that it can receive the energy, and it's a certain kind of, I don't know, bathing, cleansing, but also activating, storing of the energy in a stone like this. I also think labradorite. I've heard this, and I think it's a really cool stone to work with, labradorite, for eclipses and well, I think both eclipses, but definitely lunar eclipses. And yes, labradorite. And then you've got your darker stones, like, I'm trying to remember some of these names, like jet. This is jet, and this is actually ruby. It's a dark ruby, super awesome. And this one, what are you called? I can't remember, but get some dark stones, and selenite's a white stone. And yeah, I'm gonna focus there. It's not great for all stones, is what my research shows. Oh, here's a cool one. This is smoky quartz with black tourmaline in it. This seems like a lunar eclipse energy, don't you think? So work with crystals, maybe. I think if you were going to make some sounds, like deeper sounds, a little more mysterious sounds, that could be a lot of different instruments. Find what works for you and create an altar maybe, take some tarot cards maybe, or I created a whole lunar eclipse altar today, and that was an awesome process. And yeah, I'm getting super excited. I mean, the weather's clear, it's gonna happen. And so yeah, after the lunar eclipse, it'll fade. I'll be able to observe the whole thing here in California. Everybody on the West Coast can do so. And then, when does it end? It ends, partial eclipse ends at 5:52. You know, that's when the sun's already starting to come out, so I'm not gonna be seeing that. Total eclipse ends at 4:30. I guess 4:30 to 5 is kind of the integration phase, and then the sunlight starts to come, and so I might as well stay up and pray to the sunrise and the dawn of a new day after a lunar eclipse. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what happens. I think it's going to be a deep and transformational event, and I hope it is for all of you. I send blessings, and yeah, I want to hear in the comments down below what's been happening for you in the last week or two. Have you been feeling the eclipse energy? And how are you feeling about going out tonight if you're going to? And check back here after you've done your lunar eclipse ritual and let me know how it went. Let me know if it was transformational for you and maybe what came to you. And maybe over the next couple weeks, it'll kind of get deeper and you'll understand more. And so if you're seeing this video after the eclipse, maybe you can still be able to tune into what's been happening and feel into how your life has transformed. And so thank you so much. Thank you everybody who's been following my channel. We're getting real close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm intending to do some special events, and I'm going to give away an astrology reading. I'm going to send more information in future videos, so please stay tuned. In order to win the free reading, you're going to have to be subscribed. So if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. It really helps the channel. And thank you. Blessings. Love. Love. So for the astrology geeks out there and for the really serious astronomers, let's take just a quick look at the star charts, the maps and models of what's going on here. And I'll just name one thing here, which this is another thing that's happening tonight. Venus has returned to the evening sky, and as she does, she's right next to Mercury. And so after sunset, look to the west to see the full moon rise. Tune into the full moon rising energy. Later will become the lunar eclipse when the full moon is exact. But then look to the east after sunset and look for Venus as the sky darkens. You'll start to see beautiful bright Venus, and right next to her, as the sky gets even darker, you'll see Mercury. And so there's a few amazing astronomical things happening tonight. Sunset itself, that'll be awesome. After sunset, look to the west, full moon rising, amazing. So awesome to see the full moon every month. And the Mercury-Venus conjunction, totally visible when it gets dark enough. And then the lunar eclipse. And you can see that here on the astrological map. Venus-Mercury conjunction, less than 4 degrees. And here's the sun. So when the sun sets, let's go forward an hour at a time. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to put on my glasses. How about that? Let's see. That's 6:30 p.m., 7:30. Here's 8:30 after the sun has set, and you can see Mercury and Venus actually very close to within 3 degrees, and not too far above them. You'll also be able to see Mars, and here's the moon in Sagittarius, the full moon in Sagittarius rising, and wow, you take all that in, and then a few hours later, you go to, let's go to 4:30 a.m. on the 26th, and you can see the moon at 5:37 and the sun at 5:26. So that's just past exactitude, but it'll look totally exact at that point. So okay. You'll also be able to see Jupiter and Saturn during the lunar eclipse. That's awesome. Lots going on. Here over on the astronomical map, this is 4:17 a.m. Just show you. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Here's the Earth, and am I doing this right? Yeah, you can see here on the other side of the Earth, the moon, and so it's in the shadow of the Earth here at 4:17, 4:18 a.m., and you can see that Mercury and Venus are in a tight conjunction from our perspective. They will be visible, as I said, shortly after sunset. Here's Mars over here. And okay, you get the basic idea. Just wanted to show you the maps, and there you go.